This card is really ugly. I'm not talking about the actual art itself, like the actual reflection of the lava pouring down the hillside in the water below looks like quite a visually provocative or evocative scene. What I dislike about the card is that the art itself is not a new piece of art from Magic, it is but a screenshot from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's also incredibly blurry. And I've had the privilege of physically seeing this card now printed. I was holding off judgment until I'd seen the card, and it's just as blurry in real life. Beyond that, I genuinely dislike this framing as well, the removal of any kind of frame, and this use of it feels like the most basic layer of font and text usage. It is consistent with the bonus sheet of Final Fantasy, so there is some consistency here, but I thought it looked like shit there as well, so consistently looking like shit is not somewhere where I want things to be. And again, to highlight something about that bonus sheet that I spoke about on the channel already, Kefka's Tower is a good example of this. It's a good reprint card. The art itself is gorgeous. I just dislike how it's framed, how it's non-centered, how we've got nothing to indicate it's a Magic card beyond the mana symbols, and if you're familiar with Bolas' Citadel's text. And I just think the font as well, it doesn't feel like Magic or Final Fantasy. This doesn't feel like Avatar or Magic the Gathering. There is something egregiously ugly about this bonus sheet. Let's talk about that and the fact that they're reprinting Dockside Extortionist, all that and more in today's video. If you like the stuff that I do, consider supporting me on Patreon. There's a link in the description below. And $2 a month is more than like 1,000 views that you can give me through ads on normal YouTube. I want to balance up some of the criticism that I'm going to say in this video of the bonus sheet by talking about how much I actually quite like the look of the Avatar set. And I'm going to balance that positivity with a comment about price here. All Universes Beyond is at a disgusting price that frustrates me. I don't like seeing Magic the Gathering boosters on store shelves that are £7 English, I think, or £7.50 in some circumstances. I think that's absolutely absurd. When I walked into my shop after the Spider-Man release thinking I was going to buy a couple of boosters, I opened a booster of every Magic the Gathering set that's ever been printed throughout my lifetime, right? Barring perhaps Alpha and Beta, and I couldn't buy one. I couldn't bring myself to buy one at £7, especially for that set. Putting price on the back burner and come back to the good stuff. Beyond just having the occasional interesting card, which both Assassin's Creed and Spider-Man successfully had and sucked everywhere else, Avatar feels like a cohesive whole, a collection of cards that evoke some sort of other world that we are visiting. Fans seem excited and interested in the way that they are going about representing the world and representing the internal logistics and the magic system and the people and the factions all within Magic. Firebending, earthbending, airbending, all of these things feel like interesting things to both build around in the extended canon of Magic, like Commander, or in a draft environment. And there are several rare, legendary creatures that absolutely, they tickle me. Like this owl that rewards you for tucking things in people's libraries is the kind of commander that I want to see if it's an exciting and interesting monocolored commander. Meanwhile, the metal bending Toph, the fact that she turns your artifacts into lands to synergize with both giving your land full triggers via your artifacts themselves, but also allowing you to animate those artifacts into creatures and kill them to recur them to get their ETB triggers again. It opens up so many pathways of interesting builds and ways to play this particular commander. I can't help but just quite literally applaud what a cool design it is. If we are to put all Universes Beyond on a scale, and you've got Spider-Man over here and you've got Final Fantasy over here in terms of quality and public reception, I think Avatar is going to veer strongly towards the Final Fantasy end of that scale than Spider-Man. All that said, let's talk about that fucking bonus sheet. First and foremost, they're just fucking ugly. Like this, they are literal screenshots from the show. Let's, I guess, go into that first. We've never really had just literal screenshots on cards before. There was the Arcane Secret Lair, which is probably the first example of this. My understanding, or at least the word on the grapevine, is that the turnaround on that Secret Lair was so fast, they had to use images from within the show. And let's be honest, this duress is fucking cool. Like, Arcane looks so good as a show, being a high quality new show, that having these screenshots wasn't the deal breaker that it is for other things that we're going to go into in a moment. I will say this, part of the appeal of Universes Beyond to me is to see the very strong design team at Wizards of the Coast take a game, Magic the Gathering, one of the greatest, if not the greatest games of all time, and use it to explore a world or themes and ideas from other settings through the mechanical identity of Magic, to see how they would manifest that in a design space that is a draft environment or Commander pre-concept play with one another. It was exciting for Doctor Who, for Warhammer. It's exciting now for Avatar, for a thing I don't really care that much about. I've ended up liking Avatar more than I thought I would. I came in expecting to just ignore Avatar, but I was pulled in by some of the interesting and fun designs. So to further extend that, I like it when the art directors and the artists of Magic, or even artists outside of Magic being pulled into the pool of Magic artists, work together to re-visualize revisualize, reimagine these things, because it kind of fits in line with that. It's that whole, wow, for lack of a better word, reimagining. To see Magali Villeneuve paint Sephiroth and Cloud was phenomenal. I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, but these pieces are incredible. Magic has some of the best artists working in fucking popular culture at the moment, and they just smash it out of the park time after time, both with the in-IP stuff and the outside IP stuff coming in through Universes Beyond. So for us then not to utilize them, for us then to use screenshots, it doesn't sit very well with me for a multitude of reasons. Independently of the bonus sheet thing, every time I see this happen where we don't use those artists, or we go ahead and use existing art assets from those things, it is a bit of a shitter because it means that some artist wasn't commissioned or paid to make that art. And I think people making art and creative things should get paid. I think that's a good thing. But there is an exception to that. Something like the John Blanche artwork for the Emperor upon the Golden Throne that showed up in Warhammer. My goodness. If this is not one of my favorite pieces of like popular culture, science fiction art of all time, I'll be fucking lying to you. Seeing this on a Magic card, it was both surreal because it feels a little bit fan-made almost. I must admit, seeing that classic famous Warhammer art within that very clean sort of artifact frame, but also it felt like a bit of a dream come true because I fucking love both these things. But I want to draw your attention to the artist line here. It doesn't say John Blanche, the godfather of fucking Grimdark, the guy that made Warhammer look and feel the way it does. John Blanche is so important to the vibe of Warhammer 40,000 that, and just Warhammer in general, it cannot be understated. That man is a fucking legend. And unfortunately, his art is now owned by a fucking conglomerate like Games Workshop, and they want to stick their name on the bottom of the fucking cards like this. Back to the Avatar bonus sheet, we see the same thing. Here's my favorite Magic artist, Viacom. Now look, this is an animated show and there's a lot of different talented animators and artists that would have worked on it, so to try and put their single name on a card is difficult. That was the argument for why Past in Flames had BBC instead of an artist on it. The art department of Doctor Who made this art for the episode where he meets Vincent van Gogh, and Vincent van Gogh makes an inspired piece of art about the TARDIS and so on and so on. Maybe it's lost to time which artists worked on it and things, but I just think it's sad when we stick a fucking company label on it and the human creativity behind this is lost. So that's my first problem with it. My next one is that these are blurry as fuck. Some absolutely are better than others because it looks like just the sharpness of the original scene comes through. Here we have the most blurriest of them is probably Volcano of Roku's Island, which is a Valakut, or even the cruel shooter close-up. The eyes are very fucking blurry. There's also Blasphemous Act, which just, this has got to be perhaps the worst one that's been revealed so far, because I don't know what the fuck's going on. Maybe, just maybe the moment that Aang is stood doing whatever the fuck he's doing inside of a bubble, whatever that is a blasphemous act that Aang does. My limited understanding of the Avatar universe, I don't think Aang does blasphemous things, but maybe there's some dark secret in his background. That's what I'm reading from this. Is this a dark secret in Aang's background that we don't know about as a normie non-consumer of the intellectual property? Or is this actually the incorrect usage of this art? It feels almost like randomly picked. It looks like they just caught him standing in the wind. What's blasphemous about this? Is he farting? Obviously, the problem with all of this is that the original Avatar TV show was created in a time when the resolution for things put out to broadcast was much lower. I mean, I guess it's like 480p, maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit less. And it's probably not been remastered either. This is a problem that we have currently with Star Trek, where we're not even sure if like high-resolution versions of Deep Space Nine and Voyager exist, and that's why the streamed episodes that I've been watching recently on Paramount look fucking awful. And for the record, The Next Generation has been remastered, and it was really, really expensive. Reportedly like millions of dollars to remaster. So old TV shows tend to be really blurry. But when you have a blurry bit of art, you know what you could do? You could re-render that single still via the hand of a real artist, like they did recently for SpongeBob. With the SpongeBob Secret Lair, I had to do a video explaining to people that this wasn't screenshots. This is Tyler Walpole doing an incredible job of re-rendering the classic Cell into a Magic card. Now there's some arguments that could be made that it's so close to the original, what's the fucking point? Does it really add anything? I would argue back that I'm assuming Tyler was working to a brief where it said, give us a high-res render of the original image, please. The reason this isn't done for a collection of bonus sheet cards, that I don't know how big this bonus sheet is going to be. Someone told me it was going to end up being one for every episode. I don't know how true that is. Essentially, the reason to do this is cost, right? Every time you have a new art made, even a re-rendering of a fucking still frame meme by Tyler Walpole, you're paying an artist to do so. This bonus sheet, as well as the Final Fantasy bonus sheet, is a collection of things that already existed. Still shots from the show in the case of Avatar, or from the case of Final Fantasy, a ton of promo images, some of which are just highly upscaled, like archival images from the games. I did a whole video talking about how ugly I thought the Ristic study was. When you go back and watch the actual scene from which this is taken, the famous in the water kissy scene, this single shot with this resolution and this composition doesn't actually exist in that scene. This is a promo image that was probably in splash pages for like Games Master and other magazines at the time. But regardless of whether it's a promo image or a screenshot, who gives a fuck? It is just old stuff that is available via the big company they're working with, who can just like pull it out of a drawer because they own the rights to it and makes them some cards on the cheap. And Magic has never been about making cards on the cheap. Not until we get to this point now, where we start to grind the game down to make as much money as humanly possible. This comes back to that thing that Universes Beyond is just that. It's late stage capitalism. It's Funko Pop capitalism invading your game. And some of you watching this are going to believe that. I don't necessarily agree that is what's happening. I think that crossovers aren't inherently evil no matter how much of a high horse you want to sit upon because of what Fortnite's made you feel like. But that said, it's very hard to argue that there isn't some capitalistic intent here, right? Where you just use the smallest amount of resources possible, the cheapest way of creating hugely collectible chase rares. Ristic Study was the one I'm talking about, right? It's like $100 card. And the bonus sheet for Avatar, if we're really honest, is full of incredible reprints. From like just cheap, solid cards like Prosperity through to hugely playable like format staples like Valakut and Force of Negation that still command a price tag. It just feels really hollow mining of reprint equity to reprint these cards, which is a good thing to do. Reprinting cards is good, but reprint them with the cheapest possible asset. It's almost akin to them printing them with blank fucking art on the card. But the funny thing is, there's been jokes in the past about like, would you pay less to get Magic cards that look like shit, like the white-bordered reprints of old, like getting a card with no art on it? Would you pay for cheaper boosters with no art in them? But the funny thing is, we're not paying for less here, we're paying for more. These are showing up in packs that are more expensive than normal packs. So for the bonus sheet to cut corners, I feel is just a little bit insulting. There is a chance that this won't be the norm going forward. We've seen it with Final Fantasy, and arguably Avatar is worse, where all of it is reuses of actual screenshots from the TV show, not even like promo arts or famous collectible arts or whatever. The comments that we made about Final Fantasy, myself and other members of the community and the general audience, may not have been able to be taken on for feedback yet, because it takes them like around approximately 2 years to create a thing in Magic. So this would have probably been locked in prior to all that criticism being leveled at them. This cannot have been or could not have been adjusted based on that criticism. And that brings me to two last final points. Firstly, I wonder if the use of existing assets may not even just be a cost-cutting exercise, but a speed thing. I mentioned about the Arcane Secret Lair, how like there was a talking point going around that like somehow that was a very late thing for Wizards to get involved with Riot. Like it was like a signed late kind of thing. Early days of Secret Lairs, they hadn't got the formula down yet, and thus they had a quick walkover time, and thus they used screenshots instead of being able to commission art from artists, because that takes time. I wonder if at some point in the contract negotiations with Square Enix and with Viacom/Nickelodeon, these things were added, and they didn't have the time or maybe the budget to get artists in to render or create art for these things, and thus it was cheaper and faster to use existing assets like screenshots from the show. And on top of all of that, Dockside Extortionist. Let's talk about the goblin pirate in the room. Yes, Dockside Extortionist is in the special bonus sheet, and no, I don't think that means it's getting reprinted. My assumption is this went onto this sheet before the bans happened. I haven't really done the math to see if that completely lines up, but give or take, I'm assuming that's what's happened. I don't think this is an indication that it's getting unbanned. If it is next week, I'll admit that my theory was wrong, and I'll also do a video on that, because I don't think it should be unbanned. Fuck Dockside. That's gonna get some angry comments in the comments below. People fucking love Dockside. Newer players especially, because it's so powerful. It's like a modern powerhouse. Some people love that shit. Also, I just think this art for Dockside fucking sucks. Is that fair to say? It's one of the weaker ones from among the sheet. That's saying something. This sheet has some fucking horrible looking cards on it. I'm hoping the bonus sheets start to look better down the line, because I like the existence of bonus sheets. I think they make drafts exciting and interesting. They make opening play boosters and packs that have them in exciting. I like seeing reprints of fancy, classic, old cards that provoke a sense of excitement. When someone puts a Fairy's Protection or Heroic Intervention in like the new thing, it's exciting, right? It's a shame that both of the ones from this look like shit. So far, Avatar looks pretty damn good. But I think the bonus sheet is its weakest point if we don't talk about pricing. But in some ways you have to talk about pricing. Like I said, it's kind of makes it worse that we're paying more for arguably less. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.